Let's start by picturing the physical volume of commercial airspace. The atmosphere over a standard sector holds thousands of cubic miles of empty sky. Inside that space, a Boeing 737 is roughly 40 meters long, a microscopic speck moving through an ocean of air. This data shows that when two aircraft fly head-on at cruising altitude, their combined closure speed reaches 1,800 kilometers per hour. They cover 500 meters of distance every single second. For those two small, high-speed targets to actually strike each other, their flight paths have to intersect within a spatial window of mere meters and a precise timing window of less than 1/10 of a second. Because the math is so incredibly tight, a collision in midair is never the result of bad luck. It requires a specific, catastrophic synchronization of failures across every independent safety system. Commercial flights don't wander freely through the sky. Every flight operates inside a regulated, multi-layered defensive matrix designed specifically to keep them apart. This chart outlines the Swiss cheese model of safety, with its 5 protective slices. Every layer has inherent holes, representing built-in deficiencies. A hazard only penetrates to cause an accident if the holes in every single layer momentarily align. To see how a collision actually happens, we have to look at how every individual layer of defense breaks down, beginning with the limitations of human biology. Early aviation relied on a doctrine called see and avoid, the legal requirement for pilots to look out the window to spot oncoming traffic. But this ignores the physics of invisibility. If another plane is on a direct collision course, it maintains a static position on the windshield with zero relative movement. Because the human eye is biologically wired to detect motion, the brain treats a stationary incoming jet as a smudge on the glass. This blooming timeline shows that an incoming target doesn't grow linearly. It remains a sub-pixel dot for miles, then suddenly expands to fill the entire windshield in the final second before impact. This limitation was exposed in June 1956. 2 piston-engine airliners, a United DC-7 and a TWA Lockheed Super Constellation, were flying northeast over the Grand Canyon, operating under visual rules outside of radar coverage. Both planes maneuvered around the same cloud and collided. The official investigation concluded that the pilots could not physically see each other in time to avoid the impact. Biology cannot keep pace with high-speed aviation. That realization shifted the burden of safety from the pilot's eyes to a national grid of radar infrastructure. Following the 1956 crash, air traffic control began grouping planes into invisible 3D highways. Controllers monitored sweeping radar antennas, organizing planes into strict altitude corridors to maintain a permanent protective bubble. But early route designs introduced a new hazard, the bidirectional airway. Inbound and outbound traffic often shared the exact same centerline. In these corridors, an altitude deviation of just 1,000 feet guaranteed a head-on collision. That flaw materialized in November 1996 over Charki Dadri, India. A Saudi Boeing 747 was climbing out of Delhi on the same airway as a descending Kazakh Ilyushin IL-76 cargo jet. The Kazakh crew descended past their assigned level. Because the controller was operating older radar without modern altitude readouts, he was blind to the error until the planes collided, killing 349 people. Ground control is easily defeated by a single human error or a primitive radar screen. To prevent a collision, the airspace required an independent backup operating directly between the aircraft themselves. The answer was TCAS-2. It is an autonomous onboard computer that interrogates the transponders of nearby planes, operating completely independently of ground radar. This data box explains the coordinated cross-link whisper. When two aircraft detect a conflict, their computers coordinate in milliseconds to ensure they command opposite maneuvers. If one climbs, the other is commanded to descend. It was a robust safety net, but it failed in July 2002 over southern Germany. A DHL cargo jet and a Bashkirian Airlines passenger plane converged at 36,000 feet. This timeline details the fatal contradiction. The TCAS in both cockpits triggered perfectly, but the air traffic controller noticed the conflict late and ordered the Russian crew to do the exact opposite of their cockpit alarm. The Russian crew suffered from expectation bias. They trusted the human controller's voice over the automated alarm and descended directly into the path of the diving DHL jet. Even when the technology works perfectly, the ultimate vulnerability remains the human brain's hesitation to trust automation over a human voice. The tragedy at Überlingen forced global aviation to define a clear hierarchy of authority in the sky. This ICAO mandate, highlighted here, establishes a strict global law. In a conflict between a human controller and a machine, the pilot must follow the cockpit alarm. Legally removing this human hesitation, combined with the implementation of satellite-based tracking, has significantly reduced the likelihood of a mid-air collision in modern commercial flight. Today, ground radar provides strategic separation minutes in advance, while onboard systems provide tactical separation seconds before impact. Because these shields now overlap without legal ambiguity, commercial collisions in controlled airspace have reached an all-time low. Modern pilots navigate through a digital architecture where every flight level is protected by hard-coded laws and 3 independent tiers of monitoring technology. The safety of the modern sky is built on these hard-won lessons of the past.